morning, everyone. Welcome to the Dawn Patrol. I'm Cliff Krieger, your host. Down in Florida, we have George Zaroulis, who's our co-host. George, how are you this morning?
I'm very good. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm making it okay. I'm feeling pretty good. Somewhere we have our producer, participant, John McDonough. He's adjusting the camera. And coming through the doors, we have Fru and Kembang. So, looking back in history, in 1900, the French Parliament voted amnesty for all involved in the scandalous army treason trial known as the Dreyfus Affair.
Dreyfus was a Jewish army, right?
Yes.
And then that he was accused
Yes.
of selling
Secret
secrets, right? Emile Zola.
Emile Zola, j'accuse.
That are accused. But just to mention that, Cliff, this is history that I studied in high school in Cameroon.
Yeah.
And this is how the Europeans use that to brainwash Africans to emulate and adore their history. We were not taught the history of African heroes, but you name it, also Prussian, Russian Empire, French Empire, the Austro-Hungarian Empire. That's history that we were taught. And they use all this to actually make people not know about themselves, but glorify them, which is, it continues till today.
On the other hand, it's history that is important in the context of Europe and democracy and how we treat people of different faiths. True. You agree, though, that France, the U.S., England, Canada, those kinds of nations should know about this, right?
They should know about this, but what I'm saying is they should not export their history around the world in Asia also and think that their own democracy, they are the ones who brought light to the world. Before those history was made, I mean, there was African institutions, and these institutions were destroyed by Western also influence, and making that they are the ones who came there. If you look anywhere the Western people went, they say they discovered. You are discovering who? Before you came there, the people welcomed you, and they were more civilized to welcome you and have you settled there. Isn't that true?
You're talking yourself into a job here, you know. Remember when we had Dominic Lay for about a month?
Yeah.
Talk about the history of Cambodia? So we may be talking you into a job here.
Well, I mean, I've always been a history student. And that's what the West led me to know their history more than I know myself. It's in this country that I started, unfortunately, that my eyes were open. When once I talk about European history, American history, British history, they ask me, what about African history? And that is when I really said I was emasculated of my own identity.
I understand. You leave a place and nobody else knows about it. The thing I took from this French Parliament voting amnesty, all those people who conspired to put Dreyfus on Devil's Island as punishment got an amnesty.
Yeah, the French guy who actually sold the secret was protected. And that's exactly what the French do. You know what the Africans did when they fought World War and for France, when they were entering Paris. What did the French did? The French sent them in the back, wanted only the Frenchmen to be seen as victorious. And what did they do? They put them in internment camp and massacred them. There's a movie about that.
No, I didn't know that.
I will send you the movie.
Do that.
Senegalese, they massacre all of them when they wanted to be paid for their service.
That's terrible. So, President Biden hosted leaders from across Africa last week for a U.S.-Africa Leader Conference. What do you know? How do you think it went?
Well, the only good news about that, from my own point of view and from what most people have said, is that he's able to bring Africans out here to unite. Because when once they are in Africa, they say, I'm Ghanaian, I'm Cameroonian, I'm Ugandan, all those so-called dictators. But when they come out, they come like Africans. But the thing is, why should they come to the U.S. to unite? Why can they not? U.S. Is bringing them here for our own agenda. What agenda do they have? They are coming to listen. Is that not just showing that they are always being brainwashed and manipulated externally? Do they have to come to Washington and sit there and take a picture? They're coming just for photo op. They're coming for a photo op because the U.S. drew their agenda. When China organized a meeting with the African leaders, they were part of the agenda. They had something to bring. They were united and going. And that on this particular visit, the U.S. has an agenda. The Africans are just coming to sit in and be lectured and take pictures. And exactly that was, you saw the Cameroonian president, he could not walk. He was asking, are there important people in the room? Are those the people that will come and sit to represent a continent? And
They talk trade. We got $80 billion worth of trade with Africa.
Well, that $80 billion will benefit us. Africa is a market. That's why if Africans come here with an agenda for Africa, that will be a productive meeting. But the agenda is set by the host. If you see an 85-year-old guy who is coming there and sitting, they want him to talk. They are holding him. He comes and sits there for 4 minutes. He could not even say anything. He's saying that, are there important people in the room? That's the president of Cameroon. Are those the kind of people that we think that can represent a vibrant, youthful African nations? I mean, we bring cops to come and sit and listen. The president of the video is out there. They were leading him. He came and sat. People were ordered. The whole world was watching.
I'm ready with the video when you want.
Yeah, he's saying that, are there important people in the room? Is that the face of Africa that we want to project?
Well, the thing that caught my attention was that it included an African and diaspora young leaders forum.
Oh yeah, that was important about it, Cliff. Yeah. Yes.
When I think of diaspora, I think of the Jewish diaspora with people eventually all coming back to Israel after the Babylonian captivity, after Rome destroyed the temple in 70 AD. Are the Africans who are spread across the world, spread across the Western Hemisphere, are they thinking that really their future is in returning to Africa, or do they think of themselves as Canadians, Americans, Brazilians, Bahamians?
I think, Cliff, that is the very, very productive part of the meeting that I see. You mentioned of the Jews. Not all the Jews are in Israel.
No.
Right, but their mind and soul and body is there. They support it. So too.
Next year in Jerusalem is an expression.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We'll celebrate the Passover next year in Jerusalem.
That is wonderful. So too, the Africans, not only the Africans, the black man around the world should know that Africa is their land. That is the diaspora. They may not be there physically, but they will help support the youth and the vibrant nation of Africa to have its own dignity. Because, like I said, the West, in the history, they have emasculated the black man and psychologically, as in their education, made us not be proud and of our own identity, and that when you look dark, you look inferior. You see, we have to start telling our own story, because if you let others tell your story, the storyteller will always be glorified. And thank God, the black people have studied all over the world. They have seen this. They are taking it. They are taking the bull by the horn and narrating their own history. Yeah.
We're out of time, buddy.
All right, you can
want to
go
run
ahead.
the video?
Yes, please. That video will set it into exactly what we are saying here. It's about a commercial made by Doctors Without Border, how they have been using all those images to deceive the world. You will see a nurse who was portrayed in has just come and debunked that it's not good. Okay, John.
When you picture Doctors Without Borders,
What do you see?
do you picture someone who looks like me?
Helping someone who looks like me.
This is a fundraising poster MSF Norway used in 2006. And we've been using pictures like this for a long time, including pictures of me. The problem is, we haven't always given you the whole picture.
The full picture.
Here, we even cropped out the parents of the boy.
Whose name is Ali Hamad. He's a real person, so that he looks even more alone and helpless.
For years, we've used pictures like this
To raise awareness,
to raise money.
to recruit staff,
But today, we recognize that these images
propagate a single story and perpetuate
racist stereotypes of so-called white saviors.
and powerless victims.
But Doctors Without Borders has always been
Nigerian without borders.
Kenyans without borders.
Filipinos
Without borders.
Haïtiens sans frontières.
Mexicanas sin fronteras.
सीमा रहित हिंदुस्तान
नेपाली बिना कुनै सिमाना.
سوريون بلا حدود.
We just haven't focused on them as much as we should have.
So, you might not know
That of all our colleagues around the world, the largest number are from South Sudan. You might not know
that this is because 4 out of 5 of our colleagues,
are hired locally in the countries where we work.
you might not know,
That today, more than half of our international mobile staff,
of which I am one, come from Africa,
the Middle East,
Asia.
and Latin America.
You might not know that Doctors Without Borders has so much diversity,
Because we haven't always shown that to you.
and that is because
Our humanitarian history is unavoidably rooted in the history of colonialism,
and neocolonialism and its stubborn stereotypes
of the white European expert.
and the distant order in need
So now we've begun the long journey to change MSF culture,
and way of communicating and advocating.
and because we all have blind spots, we will certainly stumble along the way.
But this isn't just about getting it done, it's about getting it right.
Some changes should be easier than others.
Like showing a more representative picture of who we really are, where we are coming from,
When we tell our story.
our whole story.
Of course, that story still includes people who look like me.
Because that is still true.
However, white people shouldn't be the center of every story.
Because that is not the whole story.
And that's why we want to pass the mic
To our colleagues around the world, much more often.
so that more people from our diverse workforce
And the patients themselves can tell their own story with their own voice, from their own perspectives, and co-own the story. This is important.
So now it's also up to you.
Will you listen to them? We hope you do.
Some say that fewer people will listen when the story isn't told by someone who looks like me.
They say that this kind of poster won't raise as much money, and that means we will save fewer lives.
Will you join us in proving them wrong?
We want to believe you will.
Because this is not about us and them.
It is not about heroes and victims
This is about global solidarity,
and humanitarian justice.
because we are all
just human beings with the same worth and dignity and the same right to live in safety and health.
Let me ask you this question. Would you define to the audience what colonialism is? They said for years they only show certain people that were good looking to people who have money and it goes back to Moses. It's always about money. And meaning when Moses came down from the mountain, it was the golden calf that they were worshiping. Colonialism. When they spoke of colonialism in that video, what do they mean by colonialism?
If you really want to know the true meaning of it from a primitive meaning from how I grew up, colonialism is people who were not confident about themselves. When they go somewhere, they see how people were more than them. They tried to impact their own way of life, and that they were superior to the people who welcomed them. And that is where the colonial mentality came from. In that advertisement that you have seen, they have given a false image of our brothers and sisters who are white. Some of them have not stepped out of where they were born. When they see an Asian, when they see a black person, just because the media has portrayed them as being so intelligent than others, they look condescendingly. They already come up with that narrative that these people are not as equal as us. And that is what colonialism is. But now, when you look at that picture there, the white people will be sitting. And these are people powerful. I mean, they were very healthy. Their health was not dependent on the West. The West came and saw how their own medical and everything kept them so fit. They saw, they used them, and these people were respectful, but instead of extending that humanity, they use everything to make them feel, to attack their brain. Because the worst part of colonialism is not physical, it's really attacking someone's brain to make sure that you are superior to that person.
Well, just looking over at history, my take on this whole thing is they got a lousy government there. And I think that's whatever government was in place, whatever country you're in, if you have people who are treated like slaves, there's something wrong with your government.
John, that's very true. What I'm telling you and what you will not know is when you come to my house, when I welcome you, and then you turn with a knife to stab me in the heart, and then you said you destabilize everything. And now because I have given you refuge, and you have settled, and you have confused everything, now you tend to look that because I'm confused. The confusion is coming because of the visitors that we welcomed, that you welcomed in your house. The person came and saw stability. And it is that stability and it is that nobility, that humanity that allowed you to welcome this person probably who was a stranger. You didn't understand his language. That person did not look like you, but he looked human. And then, but you brought this person, and this person will say that he discovered you. You welcomed him. That language itself goes to emancipate and show that people are not gracious. They don't actually pay tribute. That's how, once you make that statement, that people don't organize, go to the root cause of it. If they were not very, very organized, they would not have welcomed those who left their own land and came there, because these people did not go to the land of the strangers. Does that make any sense?
A little. I still think that when you have...
It is now because we have confused them so much.
That allows this to happen. You got bad government.
Because the culture allowed them to welcome the foreigners. You have the Portuguese. Africa now speak Portuguese. They speak Spanish. They speak French. They speak English. Look at any other country. Because their culture allowed them to welcome visitors and treat them well. But the visitors, they came in with malicious intent. And because of that openness, till today, they are still being manipulated, and it is still the visitor who has the power of the media, who defines the narrative. And that's the narrative that you are telling us now that people cannot manage themselves.
Well, like the video just told us, that they've been deceiving us since the growth of their organization. Doctors Without Borders have been deceiving us to raise more money.
Who has been making those videos? You have been seeing only videos of blacks with flies on their nostrils, right? What does that image tell you? That over there is nothing good. The people cannot manage themselves. We are the savior. That nurse there, they were using that nurse's picture because how beautiful. That's an ideal person. When she comes out and said they were even using my picture and cropped the family of that child.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean? That's the picture. That's what I'm saying, that the media, they started by using radio. And now the video.
Well, the maker of the video dictates. I dictate what goes on the screen and what doesn't.
Yes.
Okay, so I can keep you in the shot or I keep you out of the shot. And I'm told that happens at the newspaper too. Now with electronic, with the digital age, you can now erase somebody out of a video.
Yeah, but she touched on an important point. The people that were originally putting the videos out were asking themselves what would cause folks to open their wallets. And the thought was that that woman would be more likely to do it than the guy who was in the other part of the shot.
Yes.
So people have made a calculated decision, and now, because the needs, values, and responsibilities of Doctors Without Borders have changed, they see that they need to adjust how they present themselves.
And I think also is the awareness. When once they use the black images to get that money, when someone leaves here, you see 3/4 of those who do it are Filipinos, are Asians, are Africans also. But on the media, Doctors Without Borders, these are the angels from the West. And once you bring this West, when they collect $1, only 1 cent goes on the ground because they pay the hotel. These people go there and live the most expensive life. They live on the luxurious hotels. They spend that money on themselves. And it is only the crumbs that goes down.
But perceptions are important. When I think of Doctors Without Borders, I think of it as a French organization, which impacts how I view it, I have to admit. I think we're out of time.
Thank you.
No, we've gone over time. Can't edit it. We blew past the break.
Merry Christmas to you. I guess we'll get together second
year.
Monday in January.
Yes.
Next year.
But
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, Mike and George.
Merry Christmas. Enjoy your family. Have a good time.
Thank you and peace to
Merry
you.
Christmas from me as well.
Thank you.
We'll see you.